Welcome. Tonight, sad memory of the NSAS protest resurfaces as leaked memo reveal mass burial plan for 103 victims of the protest in Lagos, over 61 million naira earmarked for the exercise. Lagos State government reacts, dismisses memo as handiwork of mischief makers. Also explains that the bodies are NSAS victims across Lagos and not in the Lekki area. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency clamps down on drug dealers in Kano. About 600 suspects arrested in a raid. NDLEA set to prosecute them. And at least 12 people killed in a building collapse in Cameroon city of Douala. 5 others injured in the incident. We begin tonight with a leaked memo that has gone viral on social media and addressed to the Lagos State Ministry of Health, requesting for 61,285,000 naira for a mass burial of 103 persons believed to have died in the 2020 NSAS protest. The memo, dated July the 19th this year, is seeking the processing of funds after its approval by the state governor. Earlier, a ministerial tenders board meeting reportedly sat over the recommendations of the Procurement Planning Committee, after which no objections were raised to the award of the mass burial contract to a funeral service provider. The 5-paragraph leaked memo also directs that relevant taxes and deductions are remitted by the approved company. There's been controversy over the number of deaths recorded after the NSAS protest, resulting to the governor setting up an inquest led by Justice Doris Okwobi. The memo is coming over 2 years after the widespread protests across the country. For months, both the Lagos State government and indeed the federal government have consistently denied any mass killing of NSAS protesters. And in its response, that is, the Lagos State government dismissed the viral memo on NSAS mass burial, says it is the handiwork of mischief makers. In a release by the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Health, Dr. Olusegun Oboye, the government explains that the bodies were picked up from across Lagos and none from the Lekki toll gate. Our correspondent, Amarachi Ubani, reports.
The Lagos State government, through its Ministry of Health, has responded to reactions of a mass burial plan for casualties of the 2020 NSAS incident, saying peddlers of the news are deliberately misinterpreting and sensationalizing a letter from the Lagos State government's public procurement agency. According to the state government's response in the form of a statement signed by the Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Olusegun Oboye, the Lagos State Environmental Health Unit picked up the bodies in the aftermath of NSAS violence and community clashes at Fagba, Ketu, Ikorodu, Orile, Ajegunle, Abulegba, Ikeja, Ojota, Ekoro, Ogba, Isolo, and Aja areas of Lagos State. There was also a jailbreak at Ikoyi prison. The 103 casualties mentioned in the documents were from these incidents and not from Lekki toll gate as being alleged. For the avoidance of doubt, no body was retrieved from the Lekki toll gate incident.
In suit FHC/L/C,
it said, contrary to the disingenuous narrative woven around the recently approved mass burial, the #NSAS panel subpoenaed the Lagos State chief pathologist to produce full records of unclaimed bodies of dead deposited with State Central Morgue during the days immediately after preceding and following the event at Lekki Tollgate on October 10, 2020. According to the statement, the subpoena was at the request of lawyers who represented NSAS protesters, and the chief pathologist complied. The Permanent Secretary said, there was not a single finding in the report or ensuing white paper attributing the death of any named citizen listed in the autopsy to the Lekki incident. He said in the aftermath of the NSAS violence, the Office of the Chief Coroner invited members of the public through public adverts and announcements, citing November 18, 2020 in the Punch newspaper And November 19, 2020, in this day newspapers, who had lost loved ones or whose relatives had been declared missing between October 19 and 27th of 2020 from various clashes as mentioned, to contact the Department of Pathology and Forensic Medicine of the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital to help with the identification of casualties deposited in state-owned morgues, and relatives were to undergo DNA tests to identify purposes. According to the statement, after almost 3 years, the bodies remain unclaimed, adding to the congestion of the morgues. Thus spur the need to decongest the morgues, a procedure that follows very careful medical and legal guidelines in the event that a relative may still turn up to claim a lost relative years after the incident. On that note, the Lagos State government appealed to those it called rumor mongers to allow hapless families of the unclaimed loved ones deserved closure.
Let's take you back now to our lead story on that, a leaked memo that has gone viral on social media and addressed to the Lagos State Ministry of Health requesting for 61,285,000 naira for a mass burial of the 103 persons believed to have died in the 2020 NSAS protest. We'll now bring you a report on the events and bring you up to speed, that is, on the events that has led to this latest development. And our correspondent, Dari Dewu, tells us more.
More than 2 years after the widespread NSAS protests against police brutality, the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has approved the mass burial of at least 103 persons believed to have died during the protest. The viral leaked memo on social media addressed to the Lagos State Ministry of Health shows a request for 61,285,000 naira for the mass burial. Now let's backtrack to the event of 2020, a nationwide protest triggered by a case of police brutality lasted for weeks on the streets. The youth came out in large numbers and their demands were clear. One, immediate release of all arrested protesters. Two, justice for all deceased victims of police brutality and appropriate compensation for their families. 3, setting up an independent body to oversee the investigation and prosecution of all reported police misconduct within a period of 10 days. Among other demands, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, in his immediate reaction to the shooting of October 20, 2020, said no life was lost at the Lekki toll gate.
I have nonetheless instructed an investigation into the ordered and the adopted rules of engagement employed by the officers and men of the Nigerian Army that were deployed to the Lekki toll gate last night.
Controversy over the number of deaths recorded after the NSAS protest and other police brutality cases warranted the setting up of an inquest led by Justice Doris Okuwobi.
Is it part of his duty to go and be checking whether if a document says body was picked up at this place, prison service, Abuja, Lagos, wherever, is it part of the autopsy process? To go to the prison service and find out. Is that the purpose of an autopsy? Okay, calm down. Now, let me educate you. Answer my question. Hold it. When I'm dealing with some...
The question has been answered.
Carried, charged with blank ammunition. And that is why you watched the video.
Don't explain the video.
And saw.
We'll come to the video. I'm only asking you the materials you took there. And you have confirmed you went with rifles, bland whatever, and
live ammunition.
In June 2021, a forensic pathologist, Professor John Obafunwa, told the Lagos State Judicial Panel that the coroner's office conducted post-mortem autopsy on 99 bodies between October 20 and 27.
The coroner instructed us to conduct autopsies on bodies that came in between the 20th or 21st and I think up to about the 24th. And we did the autopsies on the bodies. Not just Lekki, but cases from Aja, Surulere or something like Ikorodu, Fagba.
After 1 year of taking testimonies, evidence, and awarding compensations, the panel submitted its report on November 15, 2021. With this leaked memo, more questions are now being raised by members of the public. Former Minister of Education Obi Ezekwesili says in one of her tweets on the topic, and I quote, "With this leaked memo, a lot is expected to unfold in the coming days, particularly because both the Lagos State government and the federal government have consistently denied any mass killing of NSAS protesters." Dari Idu, Channels Television News.
To the courts now, and the Court of Appeal Lagos Division has set aside the judgment of a federal high court which ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to directly and electronically upload the election results of the governorship and state of assembly elections from the polling units to the IREV. The judgment, which was delivered by Justice Abubakar Umar on Wednesday, July the 19th, had the other two justices on the panel, Justice Olukayode Bada and Justice Onyekachi Otisi, in agreement. On March the 8th this year, the Labour Party, its governorship candidate, Gbadebo Rhodes Viver, and 41 others had obtained the order of mandamus to compel INEC to obey the Electoral Act and its guidelines for the conduct of the elections, in a judgment delivered by Justice Peter Lefu of the Federal High Court, Lagos. In that judgment, Justice Lefu had, among other things, compelled INEC to comply and enforce the provisions of Clause 37 and 38 and mandating presiding officers to electronically transmit or transfer the results of the polling units direct to the collation center and scan copy of the EC8A to INEC's IREV immediately after the completion of all the polling units voting and result procedure. Dissatisfied with the decision, the All Progressives Congress and Social Democratic Party sought leave of the court to appeal the judgment and eventually filed its notice of appeal as interested parties. In resolving the sole issue for determination, the court agreed with the APC that Section 52 and Section 65 of the Electoral Act 2022 gives INEC very wide discretionary powers to determine how it carries out its assignment, including the manner it transmits or transfers election results from the polling units to the collation center. The appellate court also averted its mind to the decision of Justice Emeka Nwite of the Federal High Court Abuja and agreed with the APC that the suit in Lagos is an abuse of court process. In the suit, Justice Nwite, while delivering judgment, held that INEC is at liberty to specify or pick the method of transmitting election results. Vice President Kashim Shettima has departed Abuja for Rome and St. Petersburg, where he will be representing President Bola Tinubu at two major international summits. At the Rome event, Vice President Shettima will join other global leaders for the first Stock-Taking Moment Summit. During that summit, the Vice President will chair a high-level session themed Innovative Financing for Food System Transformation, the case of Nigeria. He will then proceed from Rome to St. Petersburg in Russia to represent the President at the Russia-Africa Summit, scheduled from Wednesday, July the 26th till the 29th. While in Russia, the Vice President will join other political and business leaders at the second Russia-Africa Summit and Russia-Africa Economic and Humanitarian Forum, focused on strategizing to enhance relations between Russia and the African continent, among other benefits. He will also participate in bilateral meetings with representatives of relevant Russian senior government officials and business leaders to discuss relations between Russia and Nigeria. In part two, after the break, I will be joined by our data analyst, Channels data analyst, that is, Babajide Ogusawo, to discuss the critical business sectors that influence the welfare of families and the prosperity of the country. That's in a moment. Please join us again.
Whether Whether you're a homemaker or a fashionista or an entrepreneur or a traveler, no matter who or where you are, there's a Keystone card made just for you.
Visit any Keystone branch nearest to you or download the Key mobile app to get your card today. Keystone Bank. We grow together.
The Duchess International Hospital opened its doors in October 2021. The mission of the hospital is to reverse medical tourism. We take particular care here at the Duchess to bring together a combination of the brightest and the best locally, as well as Nigerians in the diaspora who are interested in returning to do very good work for the benefit of our patients here in this country.
The good thing is that we had all international expertise here, all international facilities here, international people working here. Everything is coming together in a space which was considered not great in terms of the availability of healthcare.
Axis Bank, of course, has been able to provide us with a robust range of products and services that has enabled us to deliver that standard and quality of healthcare that is integral to our mission as an organization.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live on Channels Television, Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Sad memories of the NSAS protest resurfaces as leaked memo reveal mass burial plan for victims of protests in Lagos. Over 61 million naira earmarked for the exercise. Lagos State government reacts, dismisses memo as handiwork of mischief makers. Also explains that the NSAS bodies are for victims across Lagos and not in the Lekki area. National Drug Law Enforcement Agency clamps down on drug dealers in Kano. About 600 suspects arrested in a raid. NDLEA set to prosecute them. And at least 12 people are killed in a building collapse in Cameroon's city of Douala, with 5 others injured in the incident. The senator representing Edo North Senatorial District, Adams Oshomole, has lamented the level of vandalization of assets belonging to the National Assembly by the immediate past lawmakers, despite the huge security guarding the National Assembly complex. Speaking this evening on our program, Sunday Politics, Senator Oshomole says televisions, air conditioners, and even printing machines allocated to the past senators were looted, as he had to purchase new television sets and printing machines for his office as a senator.
And I can't understand how a Senate that sat on Sunday before we were inaugurated, whether on a Monday or on the following Tuesday, within 48 hours, that level of vandalization took place. And we have hundreds of security men and women in the National Assembly. I can never understand what happened. And you find holes on the wall, even the office of very principal officers of the Senate. So I don't get it to measure individuals. Now, if you try to imagine what that means for 109 offices, and then the principal officers probably, they also have offices for their officers. And you have 360 people, because people tell me even in the House of Rep too, there's also the same kind of vandalization. In the background that I'm coming from, a change of tenant, a change of governor or president doesn't mean we will have to replace everything. Yeah, we can remove one picture and hang another one. That should cost money, and not much money.
The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has sued the central bank for failure to delete what they consider unlawful provisions in the CBN's customer due diligence regulations. The CBN had mandated banks and other financial institutions to implement the mandatory provisions on customers' social media handles for the purpose of identification in the CBN regulations. The rights group in a suit is seeking an order of mandamus to direct and compel the central bank to withdraw its directive and delete the unlawful provisions of Section 6 of its Customer Due Diligence Regulations 2023 for being inconsistent with Section 39 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 and other extant laws. SERAP argues that such information may be used to unjustifiably or arbitrarily restrict the rights to freedom of expression and privacy. The leadership of the federal, state and local governments say they are willing to rise up to the challenges caused by the rising cost of living in Nigeria. Tonight, our focus is on the critical business sectors that influence the welfare of families and the prosperity of the nation. Babajide Oguso, founder of Leadership by Data and Channels Television's data consultant, is here to share more insight. Babajide, great to have you again on the News at 10.
Good evening, Ayatollah.
An interesting one we're going to be talking about, of course, looking at the influence of welfare families. Now, let me start by asking you, some years ago, at least, business owners advocated for governments to help improve the ease of doing business. In recent times, well, it appears the cause haven't really changed. Is there any data that points, to the way we do ease of business in Nigeria?
Again, just as you started, the discussion was improving the ease of business some years ago. Now, the discussion has moved to reducing the difficulty of doing business. But yes, to that question, yes, there is data that points to what the government needs to do and what the government needs to stop doing. In simple terms, Ayo, tonight I come with some good news and some bad news. But I'd like to start with the good news first. I'd like us to take a look at the best performing sectors, what we'll probably classify as the best businesses to operate in Nigeria, especially if you look at it compared to where we started this journey from with this new government in 2015. Now, what's in front of you are the best performing economic sectors in Nigeria. Going by the data from the National Bureau of Statistics and comparing to where those sectors were in 2015, their report shows that the telecommunication and information services sector has been the best performing sector when we talk about that indicator, gross domestic product, GDP, looking at the value creation. In simple terms, real GDP of the telecommunication sector, 5.9 trillion naira in 2015. As at the end of last year, it grew by approximately 4.1 trillion naira. So the GDP, real GDP of the telecommunication sector, now 10.1 trillion naira. The fastest growth, again, I repeat, of 4.1 trillion naira, real value. The other sectors that have shown significant positive growth, which is where the good news is, crop production. Why is this important? Crop production today is Nigeria's largest economic sector, 17 trillion naira as at the end of last year. In 2015, that sector was 14.2 trillion naira. So in terms of economic performance, it comes number 2, growing by 2.9 trillion naira in those 7 years, 2015 to 2022. Financial institutions, again, that's one surprise. We've seen the financial institution growth of 866 billion naira. But here's why that is a surprise. Even though the financial institution sector is growing, if we look at the growth of businesses, are the financial institutions contributing to business growth, which we'll get into later? The data shows surprisingly no. So yes, the financial institutions are growing, but they are not necessarily, that growth is not necessarily because they are contributing to the growth of small, medium, or large enterprises. In all, telecommunication sector, crop production, financial institutions, where we belong, broadcasting comes number 4. We've seen growth in the last 10 years, food, beverage, and tobacco. The road transportation sector has grown, trade has grown, other general services have grown, cement, and livestock. So the summary is, when we look at the Nigerian economy from the perspective of value creation, where consumers are spending, where some businesses are investing new assets and importing products to generate more consumption, these are the 10 business/economic sectors that we've seen good growth. Well, some relatively good growth, and that's good news.
Interesting, good news indeed. So What additional steps, Babajide, should the government take, to help improve the survival and performance of the MSMEs, micro, small, and medium scale businesses?
And talking about that, that is where we should talk about the bad news. And if we take a look at the bad news, yes, we've looked at the top 10 best performing sectors in Nigeria, but taking a look at the worst performing sectors is where the government needs to create new policies, create new programs to create a rebirth in these sectors. In summary, what we have in front of us shows that compared to 2015, these sectors are in worse shape. In summary terms, the construction sector, number one, 2015, as measured by GDP, 2.68 trillion naira, that has declined in 7 years. Right now, that sector, 2.6 trillion naira. General manufacturing, decline. Accommodation and food services, declined. Professional, scientific, and related services, a decline. Textile, apparels, and footwear businesses are struggling, a decline. Even public administration, a decline. Education, declining. Oil refining, declining. Real estate businesses, struggling.
That's quite an interesting one there, real estate.
Struggling. But the biggest challenge and the worst performing sector in this last 7 years since 2015 is what you have in front of you, crude petroleum and natural gas. A decline of more than 2.3 trillion naira. No other sector in the Nigerian economy has witnessed a more than 2 trillion naira decline compared to where we were in 2015. So what the government needs to do is look at these 10 sectors that are in front of us and stop making assumptions on solutions. We need to conduct more surveys. This can't be a government of assumptions. It has to be a government of facts. And so rather than rush into the providing whatever palliatives or loans or grants, what we need to do with these 10 sectors is for each sector, look across the value chain, and we need to conduct surveys. The government needs to have more information. Based on what we know today, these sectors are performing poorly, but we do not have sufficient reasons, Ayotunde, about why these sectors are performing poorly.
Interesting.
So what the government has to do is not make assumptions. It can't be a government of assumptions. It has to be a government of facts. We need to find out more information about why are these sectors performing as badly as the numbers show.
So which brings us to the final question. How much confidence do you think businesses have concerning policies and programs of government, particularly with the President Bola Tinubu administration?
So we don't have data that shows the current level of confidence businesses have, because it's like a question and answer thing. What we normally see is when governments make their policies, businesses react, and then we look at the historical data to find out how much confidence businesses had. So we can look at how much confidence businesses had about the policies of previous years up until now. And then in under 2-3 years, we'll know how much confidence businesses have about these current policies. And if we take a look at one way to measure business confidence is to look at how much businesses are investing in new equipment, investing in new machines, investing in new tools. And if we take a look at that data, gross fixed capital formation, what we'll find is that businesses in Nigeria are not really investing in new equipment. See, for instance, last year, compared to 2021, only a 3% growth. The year before, only a 5% growth. The year before, a decline of 15%. In summary, Ayotunde, based on the policies that had happened before now, the summary is businesses were not highly confident. We now need to find out, and the only way we'll find out about how confident businesses are with these policies will be when the results of this data comes out. Again, don't forget, some of the most dangerous assumptions are the ones we do not even know we are making.
We'll definitely leave it at that, Babajide. Thank you so much for your thoughts on the news at 10.
Today. Pleasure is all mine.
The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, the NDLEA, has arrested and is set to prosecute over 600 drug barons in Kano State in Nigeria's northwest within the first quarter of this year. The commandant of the agency, who spoke to Channels Television, says that 51 of them are female drug lords that operate within the metropolis. Our correspondent, Sadiq Ilyasu, tells us more.
Armed and with caution, the operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency arrived at a hotspot in the Sabongari area of Kano State. Although they were not able to make huge arrests at this spot, a significant amount of cannabis was discovered.
By the grace of God, we were able to apprehend 619 suspects. Talking about suspects, that's people that have been arrested, investigated, and has been charged to court. Not individuals that were just, let me say, mere abusers of the substance. They will not get a substantial quantity of exhibit with them. Now, I'm talking about real, let me say, merchants, dealers, distributors of these drugs, who were able to apprehend 619.
According to the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, in Kano State, about 2 million people are drug addicts, representing 16% of the total population. However, the command in Kano State are recording huge success as they have arrested 600 drug pushers. While others play on the pitch and some at the gym, Abu Inua, a drug dependent undergoing treatment at a rehabilitation center in Kano, seeks closeness to his creator by reading his holy book.
All my mates have gone far in life. Many of them have families with children, but here I am. I regretted being a drug addict.
Muzammil Isa, who is a member of a group working to reduce the menace of drug addiction in Kano State, laments the situation of rehabilitation centers in the state.
NDLEA have only one rehabilitation center, and it's not enough. Then the State Emergency Management Agency have about 30 rehabilitation centers, both female and male rehabilitation centers. So, but the condition really is very bad. I just learned that today one of the rehabilitation centers does not have a toilet.
Drug abuse not only harms one's health, but has negative impacts on relationships, jobs, and overall quality of life. The NDLEA is committing to do more to eradicating the menace in the country. Sadiq Ilyasu, Channels Television News.
Ogbogbo community in Ijebu Northeast local government area of Ogun State is still in mourning following the death of 6 persons after they consumed suspected poisonous alcoholic substance allegedly served by their friend. According to the police, the incident occurred at a joint where 7 friends converged for fun. A source disclosed that all the 6 persons who drank the alcohol died except the suspect who reportedly brought the drink from home but did not partake in it. The victims and the suspect reportedly had engaged in an argument which was later resolved, and afterwards the suspect offered to provide a bottle of alcohol which he brought from home as part of reconciliation after they settled their dispute. A few hours later, news filtered in that 2 of the friends had died while 4 others were taken to the hospital, and they later died as well. The suspect is said to be on the run, while the families of the victims, according to sources, appear not to be interested in pressing any charges. After recording 26 mortalities with 21 active cases of the diphtheria disease, Yobe State government and other partners have flagged off a special polio vaccination exercise across the state to help curtail the outbreak of other diseases. Flagging off the exercise, the State Executive Secretary of the State Primary Healthcare Management Board, represented by the Director Disease Control, Dr. Umar Chiroma, explains that there are still vaccine hesitancy among the general public.
These are some patients suffering from diphtheria being quarantined at an isolation center at the Damaturu Specialist Hospital. Although experts blame low vaccination for the outbreak of diphtheria, the Yobe State government is taking proactive measures to reduce the spread of the disease.
If you look at diphtheria, it's an airborne disease and also a disease that can easily be contacted through contact. So all the preventive measures, be it personal hygiene, environmental sanitation, ensure that those with the disease have been identified and treated promptly, and also to ensure that the community have been sensitized of the way possible through which they can prevent further spread of the disease.
We have supported the state in terms of active case search for those cases. We deploy volunteers, we pay them, and we train them on how to pick these cases in the community. And they are going house to house to search for those cases and advising them to report to the health facilities nearby.
The media team in the state is also strategizing on how to effectively communicate with residents on how to avoid contacting communicable and non-communicable diseases.
We saw the need for us to come up and look at how we can communicate this effectively to the communities and make sure that we curtail the cases in the state.
To further curtail the outbreak of other diseases, the Yobe state government and its partners are not taking chances as they launch a special polio vaccination exercise across the 17 local government areas of the state.
Right now we are witnessing the flag off campaign for the campaign against polio. This is a immunization plus this campaign, which is going to be a 4-day activity implementation of house-to-house visitation by vaccination team to ensure that all children that are from 0 age to 59 months are vaccinated with a potent polio vaccine. This is to prevent children from having poliomyelitis.
The Yobe state government promises to continue to put measures in place to minimize the spread of diphtheria and other communicable diseases in the state.
The recent statement by President Bola Tinubu at the ECOWAS summit about the need to entrench democracy on the African continent is still drawing reactions. This time, it is the Director General of the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, Professor Suleiman Abubakar. Professor Abubakar told Channels Television exclusively that the President's statement has set the ECOWAS sub-region and by extension the continent on a course that has been abandoned for a while owing to the absence of effective leadership. He believes the President has, by that statement, shown what the nation's Afrocentric foreign policy will be like and what sacrifices must be made.
I think that statement is one diplomatic statement that must be taken seriously. Nigeria is back. It's back to provide leadership in Africa. It's back to take our rightful position in Africa, and it's back to lead other African countries. In doing that, it goes with a lot of sacrifice. A sacrifice you cannot lead when your home is in tumult, is in danger. For Mr. President to lead ECOWAS, for instance, and through ECOWAS lead African country, more need to be done in trying to address our internal crisis, internal security challenges. We can see a government that is coming out with policies that are born out of serious thinking. Yeah, that's where I'm going. There must be serious thinking, not just policy that you just take without recourse to research. Research institutions must be mobilized to play active role in policy directions of the government. NIPS of Kuru, universities, researchers, our academics, they need to play a role here. Our country is undergoing serious crisis, and we must all support the government of the day in ensuring that policy, be it foreign policy, domestic policy, economic policy, they are policy born out of research, process.
For more on that interview with the Director General of the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, Professor Suleiman Abubakar, do watch Newsnight tomorrow at 9 p.m. right here on Channels Television. Surprise Technology Nigeria Limited has launched a ride-sharing service across 10 locations in Nigeria. The Chief Executive Officer of the company, Mr. Abdurrahman Bello, launched the app in Abuja stating that the platform offers a balance of price for the drivers and customers, especially in view of the removal of fuel subsidy.
Friends and family gather for the launch of Nigeria's latest ride-sharing application, Surf Rides.
And Surf will strive. Welcome to Surf Ride. We're getting a ride. It's as simple as
The power of technology comes to play as the company offers safety, affordability, and comfort for riders and drivers in a seamless manner.
We have people, off-takers. You can invest in this by buying a car and give it to drivers. You give them target, they pay you on a weekly base, monthly base, you get your return. Some people get the return in 8 years. I've seen that. Drivers will be protected, clients also will be protected by ensuring that you impute your name on the platform.
We have over 100 staffs across Nigeria in 10 cities in Nigeria. We have at least 10,000 drivers willing to work with us. Then we brought our commissions down to 10%. No app company does that. And then we also have free rides for people to come and enjoy free rides and also affordable rides.
The platform offers 3 categories of rides: Surf Rides, Surf Comfort, and Surf Luxury. The former minister of the Federal Capital Territory hopes more Nigerians will seize the opportunity presented by technology.
Our young citizens, have teamed up, and then came up with this solution. So I see great potentials, and I pray, this will be the path that, along of our young people will take. Technology is the solution. Technology is the solution to even our economic, hardship, because it's something that is nurtured by the brain, by thinking, by highly being educated. So we are going to really reap a lot of benefit from this type of ventures.
While the company says they are open to investors, they are promising anyone who's willing to take a ride that their travel time will indeed be a joyride.
And now to the arts. Multi-talented artist Sylvester Aguda has showcased his latest collection of realistic and abstract collage and mixed media works of art. The artist's illustrations are inspired by a combination of his personal experiences, love for Africa, interactions, human knowledge, and nature. We'll see it all on Art Review tonight.
Sylvester Aguda's creative work is once again put on display at this unconventional space in Lagos.
Sylvester Aguda is a prolific contemporary Nigerian artist, and his works like to share the story of message of positivity. He likes to celebrate the people that we are as Africans, celebrate our abundance as a people, even our resources.
The curator, Ifeanyi Chukwu Oremeka, also walks us through the collection of recent realistic and abstract collage and mixed media works.
His style is quite prolific. Sylvester has been able to put together mediums that I didn't even know could be put together, and he works with. He's a mixed media artist, while also being a collage artist. And one thing that stands out for me too is the use of his colors. Sylvester is able to bring colors together. So when you walk into a space where you have the works of Sylvester, you can already feel the positivity even before you begin to hear the messages that have to do with the work. And the messages themselves come with a lot of positivity. So that is one thing that stands out with Sylvester for me.
His works have explored the beauty and rights of women with focus on Africa, gender equality, mental health, need for positivity, the beauty of Africa, and nature.
In this exhibition, I'm trying to share with you stories about Africa, stories about Nigeria, our tradition, our culture, and you cannot leave this place without being fulfilled. Trust me, it's amazing. It's amazing how much art can tell you. And in this exhibition, I've done quite a few works that talk about the culture, the tradition of our people, especially the mask. You'll see some abstracts and some rich mask. And these masks are symbolic to Africa.
Aguda has exhibited his works in numerous countries and has collectors from several walks of life who applaud his creativity.
I can feel his passion by looking at the different artworks. I'm pleased I was able to attend this exhibition, and kudos to the artist.
This artist always ensures he brings something fresh to inspire the viewers with his interactive and engaging pieces.
Time now for some sports news, and we'll start with women football. The Super Falcons of Nigeria returned to Brisbane earlier today ahead of their second group game against co-host Australia at the ongoing FIFA Women's World Cup on Thursday, July the 27th. The nine-time African champions had a 15-day training camp in the city in preparation for the tournament. Following the goalless draw against Olympic champions Canada, the girls are looking forward to what will certainly be a most interesting encounter with the Matildas. Australia top Group B with 3 points, and they are trailed by Canada and Nigeria on 1 point, while Ireland is bottom with no points. Meanwhile, action continues tomorrow at the ongoing FIFA Women's World Cup. Morocco will make their debut as the Atlas Lionesses will face Germany in their opening Group H match. South American heavyweights Brazil will take on another debutants Panama in Group F as the 8th-time Copa America Femenina winners are gunning for their first World Cup title. Italy will face Argentina in a Group G opening fixture, and that's on Monday morning. American Brian Harman has won the British Open by 6 shots, finishing 13 under par to claim his first major title at a rain-swept Hoylake. Masters champion John Ram tied for second alongside Austria's Sepp Straka, Australian Jason Day and South Korean Tom Kim on 7 under. Harman left a 5-shot lead overnight and recovered from a shaky start to cruise to victory with a 1 under final round of 70.
And lastly, I want to thank the RNA for putting together such an incredible championship. I couldn't be happier to be its champion. And to all the fans, to all the nice words, and all the people back home who were rooting me on, I appreciate it so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
To the racetrack, Max Verstappen dominated the Hungarian Grand Prix to deliver his Red Bull Team A record-breaking 12th consecutive Formula One victory. McLaren's Lando Norris took second, with Sergio Perez in the other Red Bull completing the podium at the Hungaroring. Red Bull surpassed the feat of McLaren, who won 11 races in 1988 with this latest demonstration of supremacy over the rest of the grid.
For the team, 12 wins in a row, it's just incredible. What we've been going through the last 2 years is unbelievable, and hopefully, we can keep this momentum going for a long time. And also, just to work with the whole team is always very enjoyable. Of course, it's always good to look into, like yesterday, for example, to keep pushing, always wanting to do better. But then a day like today is just perfect.
French youngster Léon Marchand was presented with his 400 meters individual medley gold medal by Michael Phelps after the 21-year-old shattered the American's 15-year-old world record at the World Aquatics in Fukuoka, Japan. Martian, coached by Phelps' former mentor, Bob Bowman, clocked 4 minutes, 02.50 seconds, bettering Phelps' time of 4 minutes, 03.84 seconds, set at the 2008 Beijing Olympics. It was Phelps' last remaining individual world record. At least 12 people have been killed and 5 others injured after a building collapsed in Cameroon's biggest city of Douala. Authorities are still trying to ascertain how many people were inside the 4-story building when it fell onto another residential block early this morning. The regional governor, Samuel Diendoni Ivaha Dibois, has sought to reassure people, saying the situation is under control and rescue teams will make sure nobody is left beneath the wreckage. It is not known what may have caused the building in Douala's Ange Raphael neighborhood to collapse, but then residents have told journalists it looked dilapidated. The Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba is on a tour of African nations starting today. It will be the 3rd time Mr. Kuleba will be visiting the continent against the backdrop of the worsening global food crisis after Russia's withdrawal from the Black Sea Grain Initiative. From July the 23rd to the 24th, the Ukrainian Foreign Minister will begin his tour with a visit to Equatorial Guinea, where he will hold talks with the country's leadership on the development of bilateral relations, increasing the volume of trade, ensuring food security in Africa, and supporting President Volodymyr Zelensky's peace formula. Back in January last year, Ukraine approved the African strategy in which the Ukrainian president, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Parliamentary Diplomacy significantly intensified contact with African countries. The first African tour of the head of the Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs took place in October 2022 to Senegal, Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, and Kenya, while the second was in May this year to Ethiopia, Morocco, Rwanda, Mozambique, and Nigeria. Meanwhile, in an interview with Channels Television, the deputy head of the mission of the Ukrainian embassy in Nigeria, Ihor Cherenko, says Ukraine observes cordial relations with Nigeria, which will ensure grain supply to the country will not be affected by Russia's withdrawal from the Black Sea Grain deal.
Ukraine has constructive relations with Nigerian government. Ukraine and Nigeria always had good relations, and we are developing it very strongly. For example, just in May was the inauguration of Mr. Bola Tinubu. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine came to Nigeria, and it was the first visit of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine to Nigeria. And well, what support do we need now? We need first of all the support of Nigeria in the international organizations, in United Nations, the support of the resolutions to protect the territorial integrity of Ukraine. And we are very thankful to Nigerian side for voting in favor of such resolutions. Ukraine announced grain supplies, especially to the African states, and especially 25 tons of grain to Nigeria. It is made with the help of the World Food Program, and nothing will change instead of Russian terrorist policy. We are looking with the United Nations as well as with Turkey their ways how to prolong the grain exports instead of Russian barbarianship, what they do in the Black Sea region.
Wildfires in Greece's largest island's roads have caused major disruption for holiday seekers as thousands are being forced to flee hotels. The deputy mayor, Athanasios Veranis, said some people had slept in cardboard boxes overnight and warned there are not enough essentials. There are reports about 19,000 people have been evacuated by land and sea. A further 1,200 more will be evacuated from 3 villages in Pefki, Lindos, and Kalathos. Rhodes has been battling wildfires fanned by strong winds since Tuesday last week as Europe deals with a challenging heat wave.
Thousands of tourists and residents have been fleeing a wildfire on the Greek island of Rhodes in schools and shelters. with many evacuated on private boats from beaches as flames menaced resorts and coastal villages. Thousands spent the night on beaches and streets. Many people fled hotels when huge flames reached the seaside villages of Kyotari, Janadi, Pefki, Lindos, Lardos, and Kalatos.
Basically, we got back to our hotel room last night, and we had the emergency alert to say we had to leave Pefkos, basically flee Pefkos, go down to the beach, and we were told that coaches would be coming to pick us up sort of 20-30 minutes. We didn't collect it till around like 3:30 in the morning, so we were sat waiting on the beach for like over 3 hours. Obviously extreme heat conditions, very, very warm obviously.
We saw the flames coming over the top because we'd seen the smoke for a few days, and we were told by the hotel manager, it's okay, don't worry. And then when we saw the flames coming over the top, we were all a little bit worried. There was more ash coming down. And then we were told by the police to evacuate. We went and packed a bag. When we came back, the fire was halfway down the hill.
Video from roads on Saturday showed thick plumes of smoke over the beach as wildfires menaced resorts and coastal villages. Footage posted on social media showed tourists in hotels and waiting on buses on Sunday as they asked holiday representatives to answer questions about providing food and water.
So will the hotel give us food and drinks then?
No, you haven't. Well, we have nothing.
The fire brigade said 19,000 people were moved from homes and hotels, calling it the biggest safe transport of residents and tourists Greece has carried out. Backed by air water bombers and reinforcements by Slovakia, the firefighters struggled with new outbreaks of the wildfire, which was fanned by strong winds. In the meantime, temperatures are still sweltering, surpassing 40 degrees Celsius. Archaeological sites, including the most famous landmark, the Acropolis, were closed until Sunday to avoid the blazing sun. Health authorities have warned the public to stay indoors and remain hydrated, while government authorities have advised workers to take breaks to avoid exercise and sun tanning.
And the main news again. A leaked memo that went viral on social media has revealed a mass burial plan for 103 victims of the NSAS protests in Lagos, and over 61 million naira has been earmarked for the exercise. Also today, the Lagos State government has dismissed the allegation of the viral leaked memo on the mass burial of NSAS victims, saying the bodies were picked from different locations in Lagos and not at the Lekki toll gate. Vice President Kashim Shettima has left Nigeria to attend 2 major international summits in Rome, Italy, and in St. Petersburg in Russia on behalf of President Bola Tinubu. That's the news at 10 tonight. Many thanks for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. Do have a good night.
Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and Roku. Channels Television, ubiquitous.